Meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Hey guys, our class today is going to start a new series on the book of Ecclesiastes, and there's going to be a lot of stuff like that in it that sounds like you're saying that life is pointless or meaningless, and it's going to sometimes sound a little depressing. But I want to get across today, as we intro the book, that that's not actually what the book is about. It starts out kind of sounding like that, and many times throughout it does sound like that. But it's actually supposed to be kind of freeing, and it's supposed to free you of all your stress and all your worries. So if that sounds good, I am excited about studying this book with you guys and kind of just seeing where this book of Ecclesiastes, one of the books in the Bible that's part of the wisdom literature, see where it takes us and how it affects our life. So let's go ahead and start by looking at the word that is very important to this book, and we see it a lot in the book. It's a word called Hevel. Hevel. And it's in the second verse of the book. We're just going to look at the first two verses. It says, "The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem." And so I want to start out by first saying we're not really sure who this preacher is, or if he's a real person or not. The word there for preacher could mean teacher, or there's a little bit of leeway there that we're not real sure about. We don't know exactly who this is. It may have been Solomon, but we don't know for sure. But also I want to point out that there is a person who is writing the book of Ecclesiastes. And then there is this character, the preacher, who may or may not be Solomon. And so we have kind of two voices here, and we'll see at the very end of the book, the writer of the book will kind of summarize this idea of the teacher and what he had to say, and kind of sum it all up and put it into perspective for us. So, but I want to look at verse 2. "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity." And the word here, vanity, isn't necessarily to be translated like caring about how good you look. It's talking about basically how we're all flesh and bone, and how it's pretty much all worthless or meaningless at the end of the day. But there's more going on here to this word than just being able to translate it into meaningless or vanity. There's a cool thing here, and cool is a good word. If I were to try and translate the word cool, I would say Malvin is cool. If I were to translate that literally, someone who's just learning English may think that I have a low body temperature. They may think that there's something going on with the temperature of my body. Of course, we know that that's not the case. What I really mean is that I'm, a cool kid, that I am hip, that I am fashionable, maybe. I don't know. I'm none of those things. I'm not really cool. But, you get what I'm saying. This word could be translated hevel, could be translated breath or vapor or smoke. And so you have this idea of vapor being here for a second and gone for a next. And so you see some people translating this word into that idea of futile or fleeting, like a breath. In fact, some people think that the word hevel is actually an onomatopoeia, or a word that kind of sounds like the way you say it. Hevel. It's a very heavy breath. And so it's saying, everything is, it's a breath. It's here, and then it's gone. And so you get this translation of futile or fleeting or breath or vapor or smoke. And then there's another possible meaning of the idea of being hard to grasp or enigmatic or an enigma, that life itself is an enigma, and it's hard to understand and hard to grasp, or that it's just completely absurd and unfair. The word hevel could mean absurd, unfair, anti-rational. And I think it's kind of all of these things put together. Like when we say the word cool, we don't actually mean cold. I think that this word has to do with breath, and how smoke is it's hard to grasp. It looks real. It looks like you could just reach out and grab it. When you do, you can't. And that's how life is. And that's what the teacher wants to get across to us in this book, is that life is fleeting. Life is this vapor, and most of the things in our life are meaningless and pointless. But that's not where he's going to stop. You may think, oh, that sounds pretty depressing, Malvin. Why are we reading this book? In fact, why is this book in the Bible? And he's getting to a point. And this book is not meant to get us into a place of feeling depressed. It's actually supposed to do the opposite. We talked about this if you were in the Zoom call on Wednesday night, or this is going to release on Thursday, so if you were in the Zoom call last night. We talked a little bit about how this book is actually meant to set us free from the cares of the world. If everything in this world is fleeting, is this vapor and smoke, it allows me to not get stressed out about it, to not be stressed about popularity or making the right amount of money, or whatever it is that stresses us out, even our health and things that we stress us out and stress us and worry us and get us anxious, all those things. Ecclesiastes wants to cut those ropes away from us and lift us into the only thing that actually does matter. Because there is one thing that does, and it's at the end of the book. In chapter 12 and verse 8, the preacher is going to end his lesson the same way that he started it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher, all is vanity. And then the writer of the book is going to go into kind of a summary and kind of tell, what's all this mean, and what is all this wisdom that this teacher is giving us come together to mean. And at the very end, he says in verse 13, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. You see, our purpose as human beings, the reason we were put on this earth, was to love God, to worship him, to praise him, and to fulfill our duty as humans, to fulfill ourselves. That's what we have to do. And he doesn't say, he's not saying that serving God is going to bring you comfort, or that it's going to fix everything in your life and make you live this wondrous, perfect life. But what he's saying is it will give you substance. It will give you fulfillment, because that is what we were truly meant to do. And it will actually give us comfort to know that when God comes back, that he's going to come back. And in verse 14, for God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. One day, God's going to come back, and he's going to disperse the smoke. He's going to disperse the Hevel, all the things that stress us out, everything that we look on the news and we say, that's not fair, that doesn't make sense. All those things are going to be cast away. The smoke is going to clear. All of a sudden, things won't be absurd. They won't be beyond our grasp. They won't be worthless. They won't be futile. They won't be like a breath. Only that which is only the things that have substance will be around. And all the things that stress us out in our day-to-day life are going to be gone like a breath. So I can't wait to study this book and get into it chapter by chapter. And there may be points in this study that we may feel down, but we're going to keep coming back to this point as we study through Ecclesiastes. We're going to keep coming back to verse 13. Here's the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. And I think, and I hope, what we realize as we get the point of the book is to let us free. It's to relieve our anxieties and to make us fully trust in God. So we'll have another lesson on Tuesday, and I'll see you guys then. We'll get into chapter 1.